It's time. We've gotten here. My friends, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for sports.
Where did the Sounders go?
Yeah.
Sounders go? Where did the Sounders go?
I almost did my goal, but there wasn't any.
Well, here we go. We are sounding off today. Ladies and gentlemen, we're talking sports, and it is a great day anytime I get to be with these fellas. It's Sports Time Out. Wherever you are, we talk sports. No matter where you are in the world, we talk sports. And we at the round table kind of have a connection to Seattle sports. So you're going to hear a lot of Seattle sports talk with our round table. My brothers in armchairs watching sports. Now as I said, we each have a connection to Seattle sports, but wherever you may be, the deeper connection is the God story. And who is at our table today? Well, let us welcome. He is pastor. He is a coach. He's a player. He is a chaplain. He's Garrick Pang. He pangs us. He brings the pang. And then we have Rich Hallstrom. He's an author of Thunder Sports Network. He's a veteran sports reporter and the official 12th man. Chris Brown bringing it home. Now, Chris Brown is one of us who has our own theme song because he comes sometimes with a different perspective that I think a lot of our listeners from around the world might appreciate. It's not from Seattle.
I'm the most chillin' villain.
He's a chillin' villain, and he's a godly man. We love him. And then we have Joshua McMillan, our own sports authority. You hear him as our manna on the street as well. You can find him on Twitter at Josh Reports Live. He's a tweetheart. All right, guys, here is what I wanted to get to first to get it out of the way.
Highly appropriate
Sounders,
music.
right. The Seattle Sounders played in the MLS Final Cup.
Are you sure about that? I don't think they did.
Oh!
We played in the second half.
The plane missed its stop.
3-0 to the Columbus Crew. Guys, let's just talk about it, get it out of the way, and then move freaking on. Was it a coaching error? Because a lot of people are blaming Alex Roldan, and I would hate to be Alex Roldan the next day. But it was just he didn't seem to be, as for one thing, a good fit in the starting 11. We came out flat. We stayed flat the first half. And Schmetzer's loyalty is something people have been talking about, maybe his greatest strength and biggest weakness. He's just loyal to people, and man, it didn't play out. What are your thoughts, Garrick? I'm going to let you talk. I'm just going to. Okay, I'm better. Go ahead.
Well, you're absolutely right. I mean, Brian is a great coach, and part of that is because of his loyalty to his players. And it's kind of the whole dance with who brung you, right? So leading up to the championship, you had a solid team and got us to that game. I don't think that we started our best 11, and that's just the point, that I think you need to make adaptations and adjustments given your opponent. And I do feel badly for Alex. Both of those first two goals, he was kind of the closest marker. It could be argued that
but not the only factor. Not the only factor.
Exactly.
Come on.
Yep. But I would have probably started Leerdam in his place, and then I would have probably started Smith in place of Nuhu, because those guys just get a little bit more into the attack in a more strategic way. But you know, it's that whole armchair quarterbacking, right? And so it was a tough loss. Now, clearly we came out in the second half ready to play, but it was not a Minnesota team either. And so, you know, we clearly
we did it.
Yeah, we
just
could
did it.
not come back.
Too little, too late. And at this level of play, and this plays out to all sports, and we saw it last week with the Seahawks. We see it with our favorite teams. It doesn't always register, oh, we had a bad day. That I don't know if that should cut it. I mean, sometimes when I watch the Premier League, this last week there was a Sheffield United and Man U game, right? And the guy was running. He paused the ball on the top of his foot. He, under pressure, line drives it past two defenders right above the head of the goalie. And they just call that a Tuesday. But we sometimes will watch our favorite teams and they're at high level of play and they're like, who is this? I mean, what? So, guys, what's the deal with that? Chris Brown, we haven't heard from you for a while. What say you?
This is not the topic to hear from me. The only thing I want to say is I hope it wasn't my fault because I sent Michelle a message during the game and I was like,
yeah, I know.
I think it's a picture, right? Or sent the group a picture saying that I was actually watching. I was actually here watching, and I've never watched ever, even one.
Isn't that funny? Okay, and why do we think that? Why do we think that, guys? Because I felt guilty for wearing earrings that I won the last time we lost at an MLS Cup. Okay, so it's not, I mean, and I'm thinking, why am I, oh, these darn earrings. Why do we do that? That's just so wrong. Rich, what is up?
Well, what is up is Columbus was better prepared. They executed their game plan, and the Sounders flat out blew it. And
we did.
And they need to.
But was it my earrings' fault? Was it Chris Brown's fault, Josh?
No.
Probably. I mean, you guys probably took down the plane is what happened. Is sabotaged them from even showing up. That was actually clones.
The fault was that I was not in goal. Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
The fault.
Attaboy.
That's the fault. I would have taken a few guys out at the ankles. That's what I would have.
And the funny thing is the rest of the U.S. soccer world is rejoicing. It's like, woohoo. And you know what? The light came on and I realized, and I wrote about this in my blog this last weekend, the Seattle Sounders, guys, we're the flippin' Patriots of the soccer world. Well, how did that happen?
That's true.
Yeah. Well, credit to Caleb Porter though, too, because he did a great job and Columbus was literally, they were gone as a franchise and there was a movement to resurrect the team. And Caleb, he was the coach at University of Akron. And so he's a local boy and, people love him. And so if it wasn't the Sounders, I definitely would have been cheering for them because
you bet. And I'll tell you what, it lessens the blow as a Sounders fan because you're going, you know what a Cinderella story. It's beautiful. It was kind of awesome. And what I want to say in conclusion, because I'm just tired of talking about it and I just want to move on. I want to say in conclusion, a reiteration of Brian Schmetzer's quote. He said before the game that the Sounders are just storm chasers. In other words, our four-time winning, amazing women's basketball team here in Seattle rocks. But no, Brian, I have to say, you didn't even come out for the rain. Boom. There you go.
Ouch.
She said it. She said it. Okay. So, but the truth is, this weekend, it was tough for Sounders fans, but it is just a game. I don't want to be like Russia. And did you hear about this? Russia has been barred from using their name and flag at the next two Olympics. And that goes for any world championship. It was because of doping and state ordered tampering with the testing facility. My gosh, guys. And that's where we got to get to maybe a deeper story today. We all can take sports fairly seriously. We love sports, but Chris, it's just a game.
It's just a game. And I mean, when it becomes part of your national identity and, you're throwing politics in there and propaganda, that is a little off. But hey, guess what? If you're not basing things on a relationship and faith in Jesus Christ, then yeah, you're gonna go to all these different avenues to try to convince people of your greatness and what have you. Whereas we can, I'm a firm
Uh-huh.
believer that the foundation of this country came from the Lord,
Amen.
and so we can kind of rest in that and just let our identity be what it is. Sometimes
Our
it's a little
identity
out,
can be in Christ. Our identity can be in Christ, Josh, and that's where it really needs to play out, because we see this kind of attitude even in Little League, where parents are just going crazy and behaving abominably. So, Josh, next generation of crazy is coming up. It's time that we really remember a game is just a game.
Well, yeah, a game is a game. You can't. Here's the thing: if you're playing the game, right, you can get caught up in the emotions sometimes, and those guys can falter. You kind of excuse that, but as fans, like, I get it. Like, it's something that you're invested in, but we have to remember, just like we have to remember with anything in life, politics, whatever. This isn't our religion. This isn't the be all end all of life. It's the thing that's meant to tie us together, bring us together. Like,
Yep.
we've talked a lot of times about the different stories, like that umpire who talked a guy down from committing suicide on a bridge,
I love
because
that
he talked
story.
to him
My
about
gosh.
baseball and connected with them and used that mutual connection to be there for him in that moment. That's what sports is about. And yeah, we get rivalries and we can have some fun with it and get on each other about how well your team is doing or how bad your team is, things like that. You get bragging rights, but it's not the be all end all. It's not our religion. It's not our life. And that's the thing we have to remember.
Good word.
Sports is a tool to be used by God, not the thing we should worship. Period.
And that's
Well-
what we talk about on on this program, is how sports is kind of an analogy for life. What happens on the field, the struggle and the strain, and sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, but there should be a deeper story, Garrick.
Yeah, well, here's the deal, though, because I lived in England for 4 years, played soccer over there, and for a lot of people, that is everything to them. I mean, really, their town and their identity is all wrapped up in their club, and so I understand on that other level too, that some people, that's all they feel like they have to live for. Which, I mean, obviously, as we've already been talking about, gives us a great opportunity for people to see when their teams do fail, because eventually they all do. Even Manchester United has had that dynasty, but they've been on some hard times recently too. So I think it's good. I mean, and God always brings it around. There's always that God story, as you like to say, Michelle, because what it does is it helps us to see that we cannot put our hope there in chariots or horses or ball games or teams.
Or politics or
politics.
movements, whatever it may be. Our identity can't be wrapped up in that. It needs to be wrapped up in something deeper. And that's why we get to the God story and the good news, because yes, it was a dark and bleak weekend for some of us, but the Seahawks kind of brought some redemption to Seattle sports fans, and they left the Jets in their wake 40-3. Thank God. I needed that. The offense played, and can we say the defense, which has been a little wobbly this year, didn't even allow a touchdown. So are we past it's a bad day thing yet with the Seahawks, guys, as we take on the team formerly known as the Redskins? What say you, Rich Hallstrom?
Well, I say the Seahawks took care of business. Jamal Adams took care of business. Got a little bit of an early Christmas present with a 40-3 win over the Jets. Seahawk defense has to continue to improve. Seahawk offensive line is going to have a real hard time against the Washington football team. Remember, it's the Washington football team, not that other name that we can't mention on the air. They've got one of the best.
It's a podcast. We can say what we want.
I like
actually, it. You know what? You're right. And we can say that Daniel Snyder is the worst owner in the NFL and not get banned for it. But the Washington football team has one thing going in their favor. One of the best defensive lines in the National Football League. Chase Young is awesome, and he is a first-round draft choice along with several other guys on the defensive line. So the Seahawk offensive line is going to have a real big test this weekend. Chris?
Well, we shall see. Chris, bring it.
Yeah, I mean, and those of you who are watching on online, you see the picture that I'm currently sitting in front of Rich Hallstrom telling the president of the Pro Football Hall of Fame, David Baker, just kind of giving him some facts and telling him probably about that owner. He probably is telling him, and somewhere in there, he's going to get the commission of the Pac-12 in there too. He's going to.
Oh, we're going to get to Larry later on. We're going to get to Larry.
Josh, your thoughts on the game and how we go moving forward playing the team formerly known as the
Yeah, well, first of all, yeah, Larry Scott, good call out. And we'll have to talk about him more because he's awful and bad and he should go away immediately.
talk about demonizing. Okay.
Can never get enough of that. Now that it's a podcast, we could just go on about that. We could make a whole podcast about how bad Larry Scott is his job now. Maybe that should be the next iteration of this show. Is how bad Larry Scott is show. Anyway, about the Seahawks, it was great to see that game. That was a game that we should win and we should blow them out, and we did. That was us stepping up to what our expectations are and not stepping down to who our opponents are, which we've seen a lot of.
Good. Yeah, yeah.
We saw against the Giants with that game against the Giants. They stepped down to them. And the thing about these NFC East teams, they're not good, but they have good defenses. They're not great teams, but most of them have really good defenses. The Giants.
Oh my!
Most of their good players.
You may be offending Chris Brown a little bit here. You may be. I don't know if you saw his face. I was like, awkward moment here.
Look at the Eagles game we played against them too. The Eagles couldn't do anything, but their defense had energy. Their defense had push, and we're going to see that again with this team. The Washington football team has some boys on that defensive line, as Rich said. It's going to be tough up front.
Hey, where's the game?
You know what? I don't recall off the top of my head. I think
the game is at Washington.
Let's ask Encyclopedia Rich. He knows.
The game is at Washington.
Is that weird that we're in an era that because we don't go, it's almost like wherever.
Wherever. I don't know. Home teams don't matter.
Well, let's take it from a other coast perspective and Chris Brown, and let's talk not just Seahawks, of course, but let's widen the field a little bit to some other happenings in the NFL.
Well, I mean, I do want to comment first of all, and I might need the music because.
Here we go. Let's just do it.
I want to comment on Seattle, Washington. Folks, I refuse to call them the Washington football team. I just think that is silly. I'm going to call them Washington. Why do people why do they say that? Why are they saying that on television and printing the Washington football? Just say Washington.
Because that's what they said their name is. It's a ridiculous thing. But that's
the Washington football team should stand for "We are fairly terrible."
Okay, but hey, I wouldn't, not so fast, my friend. To quote the coach, if I had a helmet, well, I guess there's nothing because they don't have a mascot. But anyway, listen, they're good, y'all. They're playing solid football. You got to remember who their coach is and what his background with the Carolina Panthers is. He knows how to coach defense, and their offense is nice and conservative. And if you watch them beat the Steelers, the Steelers who are pretty much a juggernaut on offense, you're thinking this is a team that can do some damage. I look for them to win that division. And this game at home, I would be careful because.
Okay, so you're saying they have a bit of a bread and butter, this is what they do offense. And sometimes we've had some faltering in our defense. So maybe that kind of consistency might be a downfall for the Seahawks.
Yeah.
I hate it when you talk like that. Why are you confusing the matter with facts, Chris? That always
well, here's going to be the wild card in the situation this week. Either it's going to be Smith or Haskins at quarterback, and it better be Alex Smith.
It'll be Smith
for the Washington football team to even have a chance, because Mr. Haskins has barely got a pulse to his pro football career now, and Alex Smith deserves a lot of credit for his comeback from a severe leg injury, compound fracture, spiral fracture. Great God story of a flat out miracle there. Also, Ron Rivera. Let's talk about the other part about Ron
Mm.
Rivera's life, overcoming cancer and going under chemotherapy treatments during the season. If everyone was as tough on the Washington football team as Ron Rivera, they'd have a better record right now.
What do you think the effect of Rashad Penny? Is he going to be back from injury? I mean, they're saying he's looking pretty good.
Yeah, I think that we're going to see him come back. I don't know how much we're going to see him in this game. I think this game we're going to more see him kind of just get maybe a couple screen passes, maybe a series, sprinkle him. I still expect Carlos Hyde as the number 2 back, but I expect that to change over the last couple games of the season as they're working him in, because I think they want to see if Rashad Penny can be the next back. They want to see if they can lean on this guy if they have to let Chris Carson go in free agency. I would love to see Chris Carson back, but there might be a team that wants to give him a big contract because he plays like a big contract back. He just has the injuries. And so I don't think the Seahawks should pay him the big money. They should pay him, but not the big money. And there might be someone that wants to take that contract on. And we need to know, is Rashad Penny the next back, or do we need to keep looking?
This ain't the game to find out, though.
No,
it's not. I know. You're right. You're right. Let's talk about that other bird you've got behind you, Chris.
All right, so let me just gauge the room here. Would you agree with the quote consensus that Monday night game was the best game of the season?
That was pretty amazing. It was a pretty amazing game. I will give you that. I was impressed.
Yeah, I TiVo'd it. I have to go back and watch it because typically Monday night football games this year have been awful. So I just kind of stopped watching Monday night football.
So the bar might have been low, but still, that was a pretty amazing game. I'll give it to you.
No.
I have to go back and watch it now.
I said the best game. That's what people were saying. They're saying this was the best game of the season. And y'all, I mean, I don't know if I could have written it better. When Lamar Jackson came running out, I'm watching real time. I think Brent mentioned it to the group too. When Lamar Jackson came running out, 4th down and 5, our quarterback, backup had gone down. So I'm thinking, okay, receiver, we're going to get Willie Snead in there. Lamar comes running out, grabs a helmet, and throws a 44-yard touchdown. That is taking the game over. And man, that was a huge win for the Ravens.
He had to get that poop out. He had to go run off.
Oh my God.
Get that done. And after that, he was just.
We go to podcast and Josh is unleashed.
I know, right? Look, if he were doing that, I mean, that was like 20-something minutes. So he had a medical condition down there. I mean, man, you know what I'm saying? Was he in there reading the paper? Was he reading the paper? Because
he made the mistake of having those stadium nachos before the game, and he needed to.
Hey, Josh, that's like that, man. That'll come out like that, man. That's just like, man.
Yeah, maybe it was Taco Bell.
Reading the newspaper stuff. That's what. Or nowadays it's iPad. Actually, you're going through your iPad. You're sitting.
I would like every woman who's watching to know this is what it's like to have a whole room full of brothers, and I love it. I wouldn't change it for anything in the whole world. I love it, guys. I wanted to move on to college. Here in the Seattle area, a lot of us at this round table are University of Washington football fans, but now they are out of the Pac-12 championship game due to COVID. I mean, they get a shoe in and boom, the other shoe drops. That's kind of a bummer, Rich.
Well, you can't play a football game when all 20 of your offensive linemen have some type of COVID related.
You would have volunteered.
COVID related issue. Oh, see, I'm too busy playing goalie for the Sounders, so I don't want to divide my time. So I'll just have to call Jimmy Lake and say, sorry, coach, I can't make it.
Thanks anyway. But as we look at some of the happenings in college, it's a weird year. Chris, you haven't been with us for the last few weeks, but man, it's almost hard to keep up with. It's almost a joke. I'm just glad something's happening.
Well, can we get a comment on what the Big Ten did in order to enable Ohio State, to get in? First, they set a standard and said, okay, you have to play this amount of games, and you have to win this amount of games. And when Ohio State came in just short, all of a sudden they change it and they have a championship game. And Oh, come on, y'all.
Well,
Come on.
that means they made a bad decision at the beginning, and now they're trying to cover themselves because they made a
Yeah.
bad decision at the beginning.
Okay, so Rich, do you like what they did there, or would you say they should have stuck with kind of where they were going?
Well, here's the thing. I'm just going to flat out say it. The athletic directors and administrators shouldn't have made the stupid decision to begin with, to play a minimum number of games. It's just as dumb as anything the Pac-12 has done this football season.
I was waiting. To come back to the Pac-12.
And it always does. Here it goes. Wind him up. Let him go. Boom.
Here's
I'm gonna go get coffee.
Here is the thing. Larry Scott makes more than the SEC. Larry Scott makes more than the SEC commissioner. He makes more than the ACC commissioner, but he has the worst conference in major leagues, in
And
major colleges.
Deserves zero of it.
Well, I mean,
Zero.
cost of living, is that, Rich?
Flat-
Is it cost of living? Or
$450,000 a year on his current contract. What has he done to improve the overall perception of the Pac-12? Name me one thing. Name
Nothing.
me one thing.
And look, this was especially frustrating. I remember a couple of years ago, he was on the Brock and Sulk show back when they had a morning show here in Seattle, and they asked him about the whole like Pac-12 network thing. Like, why is it so hard to see a game? He's like, well, I think the real fans will have the Pac-12 network subscription so they can watch the game. And I was like, really? So you're expecting everyone to pay the whatever it was, like $30 a month just to watch a couple of games that are
How much
gonna be
kickback
on
does
at
he get?
midnight because you don't have the guts to
and
actually
he-
schedule something well?
Here is the thing, Josh.
Joke.
You tell me if you agree with me on this. They have been trying for the last 5 years or more to get a deal with DirecTV, the largest satellite service or provider in the country, and have not been able to strike a deal. Why should anyone take your conference seriously if you cannot make a television deal with the largest satellite provider in America?
Or with it, or with something at least of largest, second largest, something that could really work. Are you celebrating the Orange Bowl already, Chris?
Oh, you are so perceptive, Michelle. That's why you're the best. Yeah, I am. Because my Tar Heels, that is the best college football game that I personally have watched in the last 5 years and maybe more. When North Carolina went down to Miami, and I know you guys don't like Miami in Washington, Seattle. Y'all don't like them too much. When we went down to Miami,
we got a couple of Miami boys on our Seahawks team. They're not very good, but we got them. We got Dallas and Homer. They're out
that's
there.
charity. That's
we have
charity.
diversity.
But,
yeah,
but yeah. I mean, went down to Miami and put 62 on the University of Miami. That was just, and then set NCAA records for rushing. We had 200. We had a 300-yard rusher and 200-yard rushers. It's just like crazy awesome. So all we need is for Clemson to beat Notre Dame on Saturday, and then these oranges going to fill up Chapel Hill, North Carolina.
I'll be watching that.
Clemson is going to do it because they have the best quarterback on the field. Period.
Sir.
Okay.
Well,
Hey, as
you guys changing us away from talking about Larry Scott.
Well, okay, and as we do talk about some of the failings of college sports, this is a big story. And Josh, you've been pretty passionate about revenue sharing since colleges make bank and players sometimes can't even afford to eat or in many cases pay their medical bills. So did you guys hear this big news story? Congress is proposing an overhaul of college sports and require revenue sharing to cover athletes' medical costs. That's a huge consideration. Josh, this has been part of your passion. You've talked about. Weigh in.
Yeah, no, this is good news, and I think it's just a trend that we're going to continue seeing. I forget the name of him, but this is something that's kind of been on my radar for a while. I remember there was a kicker a while back that he had a YouTube channel just going over kicking, and he started doing YouTube. I saw an interview with him recently. He's like, I've been doing this since I was like 9 or 10. I started doing YouTube and making videos. And as I got into college and high school sports, I was making videos of kicking and showing people how to do it. And he had to choose. They made him choose between playing football or having his YouTube channel because they would not let him monetize his YouTube channel. They saw it as going outside the rules, which I think is patentedly ridiculous. It's like telling someone you can't go out and you can't have a job to make money while you're playing for us. You can't choose your career while you're playing for us. Absolutely ridiculous. If you want to have that kind of control over your players, if you want to have them locked down, then you need to pay them. You need to take care of them. And putting that money aside to pay for medical bills, I think is a step in the right direction. I don't think it's everything that needs to be done,
least.
but it is the bare minimum.
Well, the problem with the NCAA is they are hypocritical up and down, Monday through Friday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and maybe even twice on Sunday. Because first of all, you don't allow athletes to work because you're afraid of possible rules violations, but you don't let the scholarship pay for all the costs of daily living. Yeah. That's patently inappropriate. And it shouldn't take a new presidential commission under this bill to switch around things. If the NCAA really cared about athletes, these changes would have been made and these ideas would have been made a long time ago. See, everybody has no problem with Saban making millions of bucks as the Alabama head coach. But you know what? Those kids deserve to be able to live on their own from day to day if you're not going to allow them to work. Josh, you can follow up if you want.
Imagine any other business doing this. Imagine any other industry doing this. Like, hey, I want you to go work on this oil rig, right? We're not going to pay you, but you get the experience of working on an oil rig, but we're not going to pay for anything, and you can't do anything else to make money while you're working on this oil rig. What is that? Is that acceptable?
But the problem is the spirit of amateurism. I have to admit, this is a hard one for me. I definitely see that the athletes have needs, and I can definitely identify with having monetary needs when you're on campus. I can identify with that. But it's that spirit of amateurism that they have because they are students. So it's just like you don't want them. Also, you don't want them rolling up, in a limo, getting out of the dorm, and you don't want that.
I'm with you, Chris.
But you're not. Go ahead.
No, as I was reading these stories and trying to make sense of it all, I do feel torn because I think that the athletes need to be fairly compensated based on how much huge amounts of money that the NCAA is racking in on this, or certain schools within the NCAA. But there is something about just the amateur collegiate level athletes that as a soccer player, the revenues are not there for soccer, right? And so just because you're in football, are you able to get that kind of money just because?
That's where I say no. That's where I say, look, they should be able to make money outside of, they shouldn't be refused a chance to make money, on a YouTube channel, whatever that may be. They should have their basic needs met. Do they need to be paid like a professional? No. But what about something that I've been throwing out there? I mean, I've said it before. We've heard much in the election about tuition expenses and loans, and why when the entities that utilize a college name, sports, make so much money, why can't that go to make tuition a little bit affordable? Why can't that go to, what's up with that? They're making bank, but the college that they associate with has to charge even more tuition and make it less affordable and realistic for people to get an education. Oh.
The NCAA 100%. Likes it. The NCAA likes it the way it is.
Well, of course they do. They're making money,
and they don't want to admit the system is busted and not run the way that it is. That's another reason. I'll go back to it again. That's another reason why Larry Scott is making $350,000 a year on his current contract. They like it the way it is because the NCAA is also considered to be a nonprofit organization. Did you guys know this? Yeah. A nonprofit organization that does not pay taxes because it is considered.
Well, they put the profit in nonprofit, that's for sure.
Because it is considered to be educational. And if the NCAA really cares, change your own rules. Don't ask Congress to bail you out and change it for you.
Well, well, good luck with that, because clearly, as you said,
that's like getting Congress to vote themselves term limits,
right?
See, that's why I do not support, in part, this bill brought up by one of the sponsors, Cory Booker, who was a failed presidential candidate. I'm not really going to take one of his ideas seriously. Thank you very much, because I want to see him limit his influence before he tells the NCAA how to run their business.
Yeah, I'll take him seriously when I take Larry Scott seriously.
Well,
bingo.
Oh, there you go. While we're lingering in college before we graduate to another subject, any other thoughts, guys? Any other thoughts from the college realm? And wait, the cat has something to say. Magic Cat. If you're watching the video version of this podcast, once in a while we'll see Magic Cat appear. It's just awesome. And I'm trying not to laugh because I have this problem. Sometimes when I laugh, I snort, and that just is really, really bad broadcast quality. It's just, yeah. Any other college talk before we graduate?
Huskies did a great job on the early signing period for football. Number 1 recruit, Sam Heward, quarterback for Eastside Catholic and out of Bellevue, Washington, played in the Elite 11 camp last year. Look out, another Heward plays for the University of Washington over the next few years. Huskies keep getting richer. Jimmy Lake doing a great job of recruiting.
Oh, yeah. Can I just say I love Jimmy Lake? He is like a PR glorious golden boy. I mean, he's just fabulous in front of the camera. He brings an excellence to his connection with the fans in a time where we're not connected on the field. And I think he's doing a fine coaching job. So I just wanted to throw that in. Also, Rich, you sent a story kind of praising Stanford women's basketball coach, Tara Vanderveer. So I thought maybe you might want to.
Well, let's talk about that really quick. Tara Vanderveer, one of the most successful women's basketball coaches in history, 2 national titles, a Olympic gold medal winning coach in 1996 with the women's version of the Dream Team. Lisa Leslie and a whole bunch of great players played on that team, helped start the WNBA. She now has 1,099 wins, the all-time winningest coach in women's basketball history. And what can you say? Sustained excellence over 30 plus years, turned Stanford into a great national power, along with along with other coaches like Pat Summitt, Jody Conrad at Texas, made women's basketball something to watch, and should be congratulated for a great career.
I like it. There you go. So
Pat Summitt, but okay.
I wanted to take a really special look at something. I mean, it's almost final shot worthy, but I wanted to recognize that Major League Baseball has reclassified Negro Leagues as Major League. And I wanted to play a soundbite. Jackie Robinson's daughter. Take a listen.
Jackie Robinson was born 100 years ago. 1 year before the birth of the Negro Leagues. It is fitting that sport's most iconic barrier breaker and his first major league came of age together. One cannot imagine what might have been for my dad were it not for Black professional baseball. Many Negro leaguers, as celebrated as Basie, Ellington, and Ella, were Marquis Gold. Satchel, Cool Papa, Smokey Joe, and other colorfully nicknamed stars were the centerpieces of the storied franchises. Neither the swagger or fame of the Homestead Grays, Cuban X-Giants, or Black Barons could be contained, not even by a color barrier.
Well, I wanted to just set the stage in case you didn't hear this story. Major League Baseball said just this week, I think it was Wednesday, that it was correcting a long time oversight in the game's history. They're going to elevate Negro Leagues on the centennial of their founding, which is very cool. And in a statement, they said that the Major League Baseball's view that the committee's 1969 omission of the Negro Leagues from consideration was clearly an error. Is that an overplay? I mean, come on, an understatement rather. It demands today's designation. All I have to say there is amen, amen, and amen. What a weird thing that we would ever consider segregating people because of the color of their skin. When are we going to get to the point where a lot of that is just seriously history? Who wants to weigh in on this? This is good news.
Well, I would say this, that like you just mentioned, the golden boy of PR for University of Washington, the coach, and I think the Major League Baseball, I know at least Rich agrees that they have not been like that when it comes to PR and when it comes to promoting themselves in the general public. They've lost some footing, but one area that they have done really well in, I believe, is this area right here. It validating, the history of Black players. And this is just kind of icing on the cake. It's just nice validation that continues their narrative of, hey, we are trying to correct our wrongs, and we see people of color, or we see all people as a crucial part of this game we love.
I like it. Anyone else?
Yeah, go ahead, Rich.
That's why Jackie Robinson's my hero. All the things that represents.
Rich, I thought I was your hero.
Oops, awkward.
You're hero number 2, man. You're hero number 2. Let me tell a real.
I'd take a second seat to Jackie Robinson any day of the week.
I'm way down. I'm not in the same building as Robinson.
Let me tell you a real quick story. The first article ever. This is what I consider to be the first article I ever wrote. In the 6th grade, I read an autobiography about Jackie Robinson. Read a book report on it. I consider that to be the start of my sports broadcasting and sports media career. First 4-time letter winner in the history of UCLA sports. The UCLA baseball stadium is named after him, and he was a follower of Christ, most importantly.
Yeah. What a trailblazer. I think it's excellent. Josh?
Yeah, this is awesome. And I love, we'll probably see more news come out about this as they kind of integrate the databases as well and see who actually holds some of these records.
Amen.
They're escalating that, so any records held will also be reflected in MLB. So that's going to be awesome to see that, and I'm sure we'll see more stories as they kind of get those all built in together and see who's the actual leader in all of these categories.
Hey, Josh, do you think there's going to be any blowback about that? It seems like there's going to be some resentment from who knows, certain quarters about if a long time record is overturned because of that. What do you think?
There might be, but
come on,
these are records that go back to the same time period, if not earlier. And if someone else was better than you, then that person was better than you. Doesn't mean that what you did still isn't great, but this is something that should have been there all along. So there's no reason for, other than sour grapes, to have bad feelings about this, in my opinion.
We were talking earlier about how we can easily demonize, but in this story, I wanted to say, in our enlightened conclusion from the Major League Baseball entity, let us not forget the history and hard-fought battle that brought us here. If you want to watch a movie, watch 42. It kind of documents and it plays off some of the struggles that Jackie Robinson experienced, and it puts you in that perspective. And let us remember the lessons from history as we make those that we deem as different, or now the new demons are haters and those outsiders, politically unacceptable, religiously conservative. They are the new outsiders. We can't go down that road again. History can repeat itself. And that brings me to what might be the final story on my agenda. A new ice cream flavor. Colin Kaepernick has a new ice cream flavor from Ben and Jerry's. It is called Change the World. It is a vegan ice cream with even if it's vegan, it's got a lot of stuff in it that's kind of bad for you anyway. So it seems good on the onset, but it's not so great for you in reality. And well, I got to tell you, I'm going to be straight up. I love Ben and Jerry. Chunky Monkey is my favorite ice cream flavor, bar none. I appreciate and I love that they have a passion and a desire to make the world better. I appreciate that their passion, they play out and they're upfront about it instead of a lot of companies that skulk behind in the background. I appreciate even the idea of bringing attention to injustice and racial ugliness, that Colin Kaepernick has had a passion for that. But again, division and demonization is in the wake of Kaepernick's movement. And for that reason, I'm going to tell you, both he and his ice cream leave a bad taste in my mouth.
Ooh. Mic drop.
Boom. Huh.
I didn't know vegan ice cream had any taste.
Oh.
It doesn't. Spoiler alert.
Well, and the reason that they made it vegan is because Colin Kaepernick is a vegan. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, I do.
That's why I didn't make it in the NFL.
Oh, come on.
Enough protein.
Isn't Brady a vegan? Doesn't he have a weird diet? He and his wife.
Yeah, well, we're seeing he only made it because of Bill Belichick is what it looks like. So we'll see how that turns out.
ouch. Yeah. So, we're in this age. Colin Kaepernick has probably made more outside of the NFL than he would have under contract, I'm thinking.
That's true. That contract with Nike put him way over that scale, I think.
And there's a problem. Nike, love Nike, and that's all nice and everything, but we talked about this week on some of the other podcasts. Selective outrage. I'm outraged about injustice here in America and those evil cops, and they're all out killing Black people, and yet Nike does business in China. You don't want to say no to China. It's kind of like the problem with college. We don't want to bring attention to something because we're profiting from it. And that's a little bit more important. We have selective outrage. Colin Kaepernick falls prey to that too. And does that not delegitimize your whole movement to a degree?
Well, you guys have heard me enough times where equality, true equality is what I think is right and what I think is fair, because ultimately then there is justice. But what happens is, as you're saying, Michelle, there is selective and just based on people's political ideologies or whatever. And I think this needs to fall both ways, which I think is why the founders of our country, for example, they were proponents of separation of church and state, because there should not be a state established religion, and a lot of Christians, I think play around with this one and just feel like, well, no, we should, we don't want to take God out. And I agree. You don't need to take God out.
Well, let's make sure we do that with Christmas. I am not so concerned about making sure that Christ is in Christmas. I'm more concerned that Christ is in Christians. You start there and everything else lines up.
Amen.
Sure. Amen.
Amen.
Yep.
Yeah. So, gentlemen, we are about at the time where we give our final shot. If you're new to the broadcast, that's where we go around the round table and we just take a moment. Josh takes a little bit longer, but he's bigger than everyone else, so it's okay. We just give our final thought, and we are going to do it now. Our final shot. All right, final shot, Rich Holstrom.
Final shot. If you truly want to respect everyone, you don't have to tell everyone that you respect everyone.
Ooh. We're just going to linger there for a moment. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, prepare to get panged. Garrick Pang, final shot.
Well, my final shot goes to one of the stars of last night, and that was Marcus Mariota, who, after a groin injury to the Raiders starting quarterback, he came on and, I know you Husky fans might not be excited about because he's a Duck, but I was so excited to see. I mean, it was Duck versus Duck in the game last night. Duck. There's no goose though that I saw, but I will say he just had an amazing game, and unfortunately they lost in the end. But I heard that there was a lot riding on that game for him, like $350,000 on that one game if they would have won, and so. But just credit to him, and I don't know if the Raiders are now, Rich, you might know if they're mathematically out of the playoffs, but
they're holding on to their possible playoff position. They're about as good to be in the playoffs as Larry Scott is to return as Pac-12 commissioner.
But anyway, I am speechless, but
didn't mean to throw you off.
No, that's okay. But my final shot goes to Marcus. He had a great game, and my understanding he loves Jesus as well. So,
yahoo! Yes, final shot, Joshua McMillan.
Larry Scott, awful. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not gonna get that shot. He doesn't get that privilege. Actually, my final shot, kind of a recommendation to you guys. Disney Plus. I've been really impressed by them, and they have some classics on there. Iron Will is one of my old favorites, Davy Crockett. But what's really cool is they put a really good collection of great sports movies.
Yeah.
Which I've really, really enjoyed, including some old kids classics like the Mighty Ducks, as you might have gotten my quack, 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 Mr. Ducksworth reference there earlier. They got that whole franchise and some other just really great classic movies. I watched Remember the Titans on there. You guys know that's a favorite of mine. Yeah. So go check it out if you have Disney Plus. Go look at their sports collection because it's top notch. I've really enjoyed it.
Togo was a great movie.
Togo,
was about
that's a good movie
Alaska
too.
Sled dog.
Yeah, very good movie too. All right, we haven't heard from him in a little while, but he is back with a vengeance. Chris Brown, final shot.
Well, the obvious take would be Lamar Jackson, but actually I have a different one, and maybe we need to get some sponsorship going from Disney Plus because my final shot is on the sports hat that I'm wearing with a Boba helmet logo on it. Now, let me just say this. If you have not watched the final episode of The Mandalorian.
Don't spoil it. No spoilers. I got to catch up. Okay.
All I'll say is for longtime Boba Fett fans, they did him right. They did him right. And by the way, somebody said, well, what does he have to do with sports? Well, I mean, as I recall, there's a team logo that was considered the Mandalorians for that Tennessee team. So, I can shoehorn him in here and say 37 years I've been waiting for what they did with Boba Fett in these.
Garrick, wow. I'm watching. No,
I gotta catch up, right?
Woo, that's great. My final shot goes out to you, my brothers. You guys are so awesome. We've got the Panger. We've got the Encyclopedia Rich. We've got Chris, the Villain Brown. We've got the Sasquatch Josh. And, some of the other guys, Brent, who couldn't be here, Coach E, who is here sometimes, and Tom Fisher. Anyway, you guys are such a joy. You are there both on screen and off screen. You've been an encouragement to me in a time where we're changing gears and doing this podcast. You've prayed with me, for me, given me advice, stood by me, and I just want to say thank you. That's what the body of Christ should look like, and I love you guys. So there you go.
Right back at you, Michelle.
There you go. Hey, guys, thanks for hanging out with us today in our Sports Timeout. You can hear more, see more, experience more at MyMichelleLive.com.
Chris and I will be starting a Mandalorian podcast, so watch out for that.
I love it.